Well, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help because voters...
For years, Whoopi Goldberg has closed off visitors and ruled the area as if it were her own kingdom, steamrolling over dissenting voices and expressing her views as if they were unchangeable. But then she met Karoline Leavitt, and in a single, horrifying episode, the daytime TV queen finds herself totally dethroned. What occurred next was unexpected.
We can't allow on this show to have things said that we know for a fact are not true.
With much sarcastic mockery and arrogant laughing, as well as the customary left-leaning panel nodding in agreement with whatever was being said. The show began as usual, but as soon as Whoopi spoke, the tone changed and the subject of the day, wokeness, which The Viewpoint almost takes for granted and defends at all costs, was brought up. With her trademark smirk, Whoopi, perhaps feeling a bit too smug, chose to take the first shot. She blamed Karoline, saying that you wouldn't even have this position without wokeness.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Even Joy Behar, who has made her career out of mocking conservatives, felt the air disappear from the room. Shifting uneasily in her chair, this was more than simply a dispute. It was a Whoopi dismissal of Karoline's entire career, knowledge, and work ethic as merely a byproduct of the very philosophy she opposed. It was a low hit, and the audience knew it, but they stood by anyhow.
Colleagues, I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good. So good. In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you-know-who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are...
But instead of flinching or becoming defensive, Karoline grinned slowly and knowingly, saying, "Oh, you just made. We ask that you like and subscribe as we go further because she made a huge mistake." And then, with the kind of calm that only comes from knowing you have the facts on your side, she tore apart Whoopi's entire case. This is unlike anything you've ever seen.
The most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. We have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and sex and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
She began by listing the figures. Government expenditure records that demonstrate how public funds were funding ridiculous woke initiatives, such as gender studies in Guatemala and international Sesame Street programs aimed at promoting American straight activism overseas. She explained everything precisely, making it abundantly evident that wokeness had changed from being a movement about justice to becoming a political tool used to silence those who dared to think differently. Even if Whoopi wanted to clap back, Karoline would not allow it. Whoopi is accustomed to guessing and stumbling over their words when challenged.
Well, listen. If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Right.
That's what you hear.
Yeah.
When they don't have anything to hold you with, nothing to make you think about what they have to say, they talk at you, not to you. And that's what she was doing. And she was doing it, and it's not new.
No.
But everybody's hip to you all now.
Yeah.
And we are anticipating that you are not prepared. Because you keep saying you going and you preparing when you're on the trail.
Whoopi opened her mouth, closed it, and then opened it again. But the audience was not enthusiastic as usual. Even the camera team were uncertain about whether to focus in on Whoopi's shocked face, which appeared as though she wanted to collapse in her chair following the awful remark.
That you saw live on this program yesterday. Joy Behar stirring the pot of controversy after saying this about Karoline.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Do you want to take this?
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit of, oh, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing, because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
I mean, you would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark. Because Karoline Leavitt worked, she went to St. Anselm College, she worked for WMUR
Ran for
TV.
Congress?
In New Hampshire, she ran for Congress at the age of 25, put on a very good campaign. She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Pregnant. Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives and this, again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job of.
Actually, why are conservative women consistently the targets of attacks if wokeness is truly about diversity and inclusion?
Yeah. I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a...
Yes, I would want to assign this young woman, who is working for the first time, some homework because she said something yesterday that really annoyed me. There won't be any wokeness here. Oh, let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. She said that because women weren't invited...
To add one last thing, what was interesting to me is Dan Rather weighed in on X, and he said he compared our time now to the Nixon era, which was a little scary for me. But he said, enough with both sides-ism. When one side lies intentionally and repeatedly, they are no longer entitled to the benefit of the doubt.
And we should keep in mind, too, that the people that need to hear this are the people who are running the networks that are okaying this. Because this idea, it's like they say to you now, you can only work within this perimeter. But if the facts don't If the facts are not clear to people, that was what a journalist was there to do, to say, in fact, this is what went on and this is how we checked. Now, we've been given doubts that people don't know how to do this. The media has pretty much always been